Lumber with flat faces, straight edges, and square corners will help most woodworking projects come together more accurately. And the way to achieve these kinds of reference surfaces is to use a power joiner, like one of these. Now, if you're planning to buy a joiner sometime soon, here are 6 important aspects of these machines to keep in mind. Now, the first feature, and really the most important one, is capacity. That's because your joiner's maximum width of cut and the overall length of its infeed and outfeed tables really determines how large the stock can be that you can surface. On this 8-inch joiner, for instance, when the fence is set all the way back, the cutter head can flatten board faces up to just shy of 8 inches wide, and that's why the machine gets an 8-inch designation. Now, you can buy joiners with 6, 8, 10, 12, and even 16-inch long cutter heads. And wouldn't it be great to have the biggest size? But you're going to have deep pockets for that, because you can easily spend $4,000 or more on a 12-inch joiner and $7,000 for a 16-inch model. But over the years, and after owning a couple of different joiners, I've been very happy with an 8-inch machine, and so are many hobbyist woodworkers. It offers a good compromise of capacity versus cost. Now, there's always going to be lumber out there that's wider than 8 inches, but I'm often surprised by how much rough lumber is milled under 8 inches wide these days. And when I do get lumber wider than that, like those 2 pieces of mahogany back there, I rip them down at my table saw to fit my joiner, and then I glue the pieces back together again. Now, sure, it's not an ideal fix, but if you do it carefully, visually, it's really not that big of a deal. Another great thing about 8-inch joiners is that their tables are quite long. For instance, here's a pretty typical 6-inch joiner and another 8-inch joiner. And in the case of the 6-inch joiner, the overall length of its tables is a little over 56 inches long. But on this 8-inch joiner, its tables are better than 83 inches long. This joiner is going to have no problem surfacing 7 to 8 foot stock, but that's going to be a lot harder to do accurately here. Now, a second factor to keep in mind when you're going to buy a joiner is what style of cutter head it has. So I've got the guard removed on this Powermatic joiner, and as we're going to see, it has a spiral or helical style cutter head. As you can see here, the cutter head has these rows of individual carbide inserts, and each one of them has 4 sharp edges. So when the insert nicks or dulls, all you have to do is loosen this center screw and give the insert a 1/4 turn to present a fresh, sharp edge. Now, the traditional cutter head style on many joiners has 3 or 4 straight knives on it, and they look something like this. Now, when straight knives get nicked or dull, you have to loosen several screws for each knife, shift them left or right, or remove them entirely for resharpening. Then reset them in the cutter head, adjust them for parallel so that they're parallel to both the tables, and raise to the same height all around the cutter head so they match. Unless you do this kind of knife installation on a regular basis, resetting straight knives can be tedious and frustrating. An insert cutter head is much easier to maintain. The insert's set to the correct height and position automatically, and they give superior cutting results on figured or interlocked grain. Now, helical cutter heads cost more than straight knife cutter heads, but in my experience, from a maintenance and performance standpoint, they're well worth the investment. Fences are important features on joiners too, and the taller the fence is, the better. They ensure that you can square edges to faces to establish these important reference surfaces on your lumber. Now, you want this fence casting to be straight along its length, of course, but just as importantly, you want it to be flat across its width. And what I mean by that is you don't want it to twist from end to end. Now, sometimes the fence casting on a new joiner will distort as the cast iron continues to cure. So check this carefully when you first buy the machine. Then periodically check the fence along its length with a good square to make sure it's at 90 degrees to the tables whenever you need to square faces to edges. Now, a fourth aspect to consider when you're choosing a new joiner is how the infeed and outfeed tables move up and down, because there are two options. This style of table configuration is called a wedge bed. The center casting is roughly shaped like a triangle, and the tables move up and down along these sloped edges. They slide on these dovetailed ways right here. And the tables are only supported along these ends. Now, some experts will argue that the tables on wedge bed joiners will begin to wear along these dovetailed ways, and the ends of the tables will sag over time, and that'll throw off their ability to be coplanar to one another. But I've used a wedge bed joiner for more than 15 years, and I've not had that problem with mine. The second style of table configuration is parallelogram, like this Powermatic joiner. Notice that the center casting isn't triangular, but it's more elongated and rectangular. On this machine, the tables move up and down on a pair of parallel braces, and those are located right here and here. And you can see how they work on this prop. The braces help to spread out the load on the table, and they also help to keep it parallel. And you can see why it gets its parallelogram name. Parallelogram joiners tend to be more expensive than wedge bed joiners, but I'm not sure they're qualitatively better. With normal care and use, I think either one of these styles is a good choice. A fifth feature that you'll really appreciate when it comes time to move your joiner around are some wheels. Now, on this joiner, a caster set comes as a standard item, but you can add a mobile base under any joiner. And considering how difficult it can be to move these heavy machines around without wheels, be sure to plan for some mobility under yours. Now, the sixth and final feature I'd like to share with you is a subtlety you're not going to appreciate until it comes time to replace or tension this motor drive belt. Now, I use a different model of joiner than this, and every now and then my joiner throws the belt off of the motor pulleys. And in order to maintain it, I have to loosen 4 bolts that hold the motor onto a plate, pull the motor up, reload the belt on the pulleys, push the motor back down, and hold it there in order to keep tension on the belt, all the while tightening those 4 nuts and bolts again. Now, that's tough to do under here, where your access is limited and it's hard to see. But some models of joiners, like this Powermatic, are making that task a whole lot easier. Now, to tension the belt with this system, all you have to do is loosen this nut under here, tighten this nut on top, which pulls the motor down and puts tension on the belt, and then retighten this nut under here. The adjuster's right out in the open where it's easy to reach, and 2 nuts takes care of the whole process. It's a great design. So when it comes time to buy a joiner, I hope you'll keep these 6 factors in mind. They'll help you make a more informed buying decision about whatever machine you choose. I'm Chris Marshall with Woodworkers Journal magazine, and thanks for watching.